Well, I'll just want to start by saying thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you.
And a huge congratulations on the album. And I really mean this. It's probably the best classic rock sounding album of the last 12 months. It's a fantastic album.
Thank you very much.
Now, what I wanted to ask was, because I want to really focus on what you're doing now rather than what you've done in the past, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Is the album's been incredibly well received. It's I've been reading online and it's had some fantastic reviews. How does that feel that now, at this stage in your career, to be doing an album that's so liked and so well loved and seems to be doing so well? Is it kind of like a... Do you understand why the people have received it so well? Is it different? Was there something you did differently in the writing and recording process?
Well, I think it's all to do with who you are today and who you are now and what you're supposed to be doing, what your assignment is, and how you fit into the whole, world of the puzzle of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I just look at it like this. My life has been in three stages if I look back today. And so my first stage was more like... developing as a guitarist and my music contribution to the world, created in the 70s for the 80s. In the 80s, I did the Love Drive album with the Scorpions after I left UFO, and that opened the doors for America. I gave my brother the black and white guitar design and the Coast to Coast song and gave him my blessing. He took over in America. I withdrew and focused more on experimenting with music, the acoustic instrumentals, electric instrumentals, and all sorts of things. I was approached by many bands, big name bands to join, but I was interested more doing things on my own, in my own pace. The things that I wanted to do it didn't fit in with a commercial touring band. And so I call that second stage, my middle years, developing, basically the school of life. And so that's what I was doing at that point. And my third stage, which started around in 2008, was to be back in the loop of rock and roll and to be there for the third stage, for the final or for the celebration of the... I feel like I'm also revisiting, in my brain. It's like if there's such a thing as a 30, 40-year cycle, I'm, back there when I was 20 years old. And so maybe it's part of the design and part of how life and how everything moves forward and evolves, that you have to revisit and redigest things one more time and to go, and visit memories and it's not just happening to the audience, it's also happened to the musician, I think.
Absolutely,
and for everybody. And so, and my assignment, it's like everybody has a special position in this life, and so I think we are all we are all assigned for particular areas in life, like a clockwork in a clock, there's many wheels in there and they all there for a reason. And so, and that's what I think it's, my design, my structure of my life is basically, and also what I noticed is that the first stage of my life was more unconsciously, subconsciously, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I just had fun playing music. That was it. And my third stage, I can understand what I did now. And so it seems to be for me something that maybe I needed to experience this way. And so, and basically now I can, everything I've learned and everything I've experienced, et cetera, I can put into my creative structures now.
Oh, absolutely. I think, what you are now is the sum total of your life experiences, and that's reflected in the music. And I think if you didn't feel that, then the audience wouldn't feel it. The listener wouldn't feel it. But you are known as kind of a guitarist, if you like. You're a huge influence on a lot of people, including I'm in a band myself, and my guitarist, huge Michael Schenker fan. Does that add extra pressure to you to know that your playing will be so scrutinized? And
not really, because I never looked for it. It's all icing on the cake. It's all extra. It's all stuff that is a byproduct of what I was doing. When I read my first when I touched the guitar the first time and I discovered what I can do with a single string, and that passion and play and discover, that's my passion. And the reward, that's in itself is a reward. And when I was 16, I never thought of how I should earn my money. I was just into just playing and playing and playing. And that I was earning money was a side product, it was just, it just happened by itself. I never focused on it. Actually, if anything, I was kind of, when Lights Out became a hit, I got scared and I ran away. Because then I thought it was going to be a must now. You must do. And so I'm quite happy with doing things in a peaceful way, and freedom it's really one of the things that I really treasure. And so that's what I have done all my life, and I stayed away from music and I stopped copying people from when I was 17. Instinctively, I knew I should not anymore, and also stopped listening to music. And I also knew instinctively that was important, and because my focus was on pure self-expression. And I never knew, like I said before, that if I had an effect on anything or not. All I wanted to do was this is great. When I heard something, like Jimmy Page or Jeff Beck or somebody did when I was 14 years old, I went one of these days I can do something like this, and I was always, and so when I was 17, I already knew I need to put things together the way I see it. And so I was writing and creating from within very, very early in my life, and I never left that place. It's the infinite spring, and so I was never attracted really by trends. The only trends that had an impact on me or that I was interested in was, the bands like Zeppelin and Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, that gave me a jump start, and that was it. And then once I heard that and I knew what I need to do, then I just that was the moment when I decided, now I want to do it the way I see it, and that's basically what it is. So I never really knew anything until my brother called me early 80s, and he was touring America, and he said, Michael, everybody's using your style of music, your guitar playing. I said, no way. And so, that was the first report that I heard. And then in the 90s, I heard bits and pieces, that Slash was a fan, and Metallica, and
huge fans,
and so many, and so, I was never aware of any of that until later. And so, but today when I look back, things are, adding up like a puzzle. I can understand more and more things, but in general, I think everybody has got its own journey, and it's structured based on who we need, how it needs to be structured for our own, how we need to develop.
So okay, that's good then. It doesn't. You don't feel any pressure when you're writing to...
Oh no, absolutely not. Because because the only problem is when you write. If a person makes a choice to follow a certain trend, I think that's pressure. But if you write freely because you just enjoy how you're putting your notes together, you have no pressure whatsoever.
Do you still write and record the same way that you did maybe 20 years ago, or has the process changed? I mean, are you still in the studio? Are you still is it still a live amp and a live speaker, or do you use a program like Amp Farm, or is it still very much a very organic thing that you do in the studio?
Well, the writing process is exactly the same as I always do. I play, discover, I bump into bits, I capture them, and when it's time to make a record, I get them out and get inspired to write additional pieces.
Okay.
Then I give them to the singer, and then he does what he does with it. And in the studio, things have pretty much stayed the same. The only difference, I hate playing with headphones. And in the old days, sometimes we were sitting in the headphone. We had no clue what we were doing because you're just sitting in the studio with the headphones on, and everything is being done in the control room where it sounds completely different. So I prefer to sit in the control room and play. That I have been doing that, as early as the late UFO stuff, and so you have much more perspective. You can really hear, and you can really go for it, and you get differently inspired. But both ways work, but you deal with it whatever you have, and if it's the only thing that's available, then you deal with it. But in general, it's pretty much the same. The main thing is that it's like to write from within, to have fun with play and discover and putting things together. Because it's something you see and it really feels good, to put it together. And so there is not such a thing as a good or bad expression. It's just expression. And
yes.
So you can't score, you can't
Absolutely.
compare, you can only prefer. And that's a good thing.
Yeah. Now, your last album was called Bridge the Gap.
Yeah.
And this one is Spirit on a Mission.
Yeah.
What is the explanation behind the title? Because it's quite an enigmatic kind of title, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it was like, again, it's like after all these years, I can understand a little bit more about myself. And somebody was asking me as who I want to be remembered by, which I thought was an interesting question.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Because I never really, when you get something asked like that, and somehow all of a sudden it occurred to me that is a good question, and I have an answer, and the answer was to be as a spirit on a mission, spreading the joy of music from a place of pure self-expression. And so that's what my answer was. And when it was time to find an album title, I immediately thought of Spirit on a Mission.
Which is kind of like it kind of indicates a journey, rather than a destination. It's kind of an ongoing process. Is that right?
Yeah.
When people are so interested in you and you're under the microscope, kind of thing, is it ever kind of like, does it feel claustrophobic? Is it something that bothers you?
Oh no, actually interviews, I love doing interviews, when they are really based on a real interview.
Yeah.
Not if it's like some weird stuff, like either a person you can feel that the person doesn't really know what they're talking about, or,
yeah.
But the moment I can open up, it's just like playing music. I open up from my heart and it becomes very philosophical and it's kind of because it's about life as well, and I always like to talk about that. It's all combined. Actually, interviews are very important, it seems to be, because I've been doing them for so many years. And just kind of a while ago, I realized how actually important interviews are, because it keeps monitoring who you are, and it keeps monitoring and putting things into perspective, and it's educational. It's actually a very beneficial thing.
I mean, it's difficult from an interviewer's point of view, because you don't really want to be too personal, and you've only got a certain amount of time with somebody, and everyone's got a job to do.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was listening to the new album, and my two favourite tracks on the new album were "Let the Devil Scream" and "Saviour Machine." Now, those are kind of mid-tempo, sort of like very kind of dark and almost dramatic kind of songs that are a little bit different to the rest of the album. But they're my two favourites.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the idea of this album was basically hard and fast and melodic. And then, I already knew when we did Bridge the Gap, I introduced the 7-string a little bit.
Right.
I wrote that song, Neptune Rising, which refers to Wayne Findlay, who has been playing the 7-string, and I've been watching it. And then I started to realize it's time to use that element. And also, Temple of Rock, it's basically, strong characters in the band. And so Wayne has been with me since '99. And it was time for, when Wayne loves the ocean, and he likes to, when he comes out of the ocean, he looks like an ocean god. And so I said to Dean to build him a trident guitar, which is the weapon of the ocean god. And so when it came to this album, I asked him to write a few riffs on the 7-string, because that was the element that was needed to make it a good balanced album. And then I added my parts to it, and Dougie added his parts to it, and then we basically had an additional writing team that we didn't have before. And so that is combining the old with the new, and so on. And I agree, the Saviour Machine is an incredible track, and an epic. Actually became the longest song, and so Wayne Findlay is in the boat now, and so he's doing really well, and it's a good chemistry.
I think the the whole album gels really well. I think that it's Dougie White on vocals, and I think his vocals suit your guitar playing style
he has
really
done
well.
He has done a great job on this album. I mean, when we did Bridge the Gap, I said to him only one thing: Dougie, think melodic, and he did a good job on Bridge the Gap. But this time, he never stopped coming up with amazing stuff. We had to choose out of all these different melody lines that he came up with. They're really good.
Does he write the lyrics, or do you write the lyrics?
No. Dougie, I always leave the lyrics up to the singer. So he needs to be behind what he's singing.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So do you ever write in the same room? Is there any of that kind of acoustic guitar jamming session kind of writing going on, or is it
what
mainly?
Do you mean?
I mean, do you ever get together in the same room and just write from scratch?
Oh no, we haven't gotten to that yet. But this basically that's something you do as a kid. When you combine party, socializing, and playing music in one. All in one,
Yeah.
But, at some point, you kind of develop into having your concept and your ideas and what you see and how you do. And you also have a way how you can be very, very, practical and very efficient with stuff, the way one puts it together and so on. Sometimes if you trying to do that with 5 people at the same time, it's a bit hard, but in those days when you're a kid and you combine all together the party and basically you're hanging out for 12 hours a day and you're doing everything at the same time,
Yeah.
And so it's not like that, but even though having said that, originally it was an idea that I wanted to do this, and in April I actually wanted to put everybody together in one room and just see what comes out of it. But at the same time, Dougie said like me, Michael, if you have that concept, maybe we are better off. We are completing, your thoughts first before we mess around with something else. And I agreed that was important because I knew exactly what I wanted, and if everybody else would put things in the room, it would have distorted that thing that I saw, and so I agreed, and so I just started, putting the things together and made song arrangements, and then basically approached it a similar way to Bridge the Gap, with the exception that Wayne this time added, his writing to, help us writing.
Well, I think the internet's made the world smaller now, hasn't it? It's made everything a lot more convenient, and people, even people on the other side of the world can be collaborating.
But
with
it's not really much difference to living in a different room, a different house.
Yes,
I mean, if you live in a different house, you still have to, get to the house and do your thing. So. And if you're living in the same house, you don't really need the internet to do that.
No, absolutely. But you do envision that it could happen sometime in the future.
You can actually do things. You can actually do things. You can actually do things around the world, having a band with each member being living in a different country, and you can still go ahead.
And that absolutely frees you up, doesn't it? That frees you up to be. To have whoever you want in the band, they don't have to be geographically local.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. But if, for instance, your band would be, was built living in the same house in the first place, then that would already be there.
Yeah. Just a couple more questions then, Michael, please. The first one is, are you going to come back and play Yorkshire anytime soon? I mean, we saw you at the Home Firth Picture Dome. Too long ago.
Yeah, we're going to. Well, we are going to be a little over a month. We're playing in the States for the first time with Herman and Francis, and I have actually never played with Herman and Francis in the States.
Oh.
So that's going to be exciting for the audience and for us, and so that's something, and then. That's going to be the end of March, all of April, and beginning of May, and then we're going to go. Then we play a few festivals in Europe, and then we're going to Japan, and then we do Europe and the UK, and then also we hope we can play Australia and South America, and then some more shows in Asia, and so it will be basically all of 2015 will be touring.
Oh, that's fantastic. And just one more question then. Michael Schenker, at this point, have any more goals or ambitions or things that you'd really want to do that you've not had the opportunity to do yet?
I live in the moment, and that's the most important. The moment is the most important, and so as I just move as I go, and things will, unfold, and that's how I like it. Obviously, I know we're going to go. I know what this year is going to be, and but for me, in general, it's just like I love to play and discover, and music is my passion, and experimenting on the guitar, and so I just move. I have an idea already how to approach the next album, and so that I make a little blueprint, little plan. I don't insist on it, but I make a little blueprint, and and then the rest is down to if the course changes a little, that's based on external circumstances. But also, I have many rooms. I have created many rooms over the years. I have a lot of family, musical family, and so on. And hopefully, I'm living for many more years. And so there's a lot of rooms that I can, visit and be creative, etc., etc. But at this point in time, I'm working on making Temple of Rock standing on its own feet. And I think after we have done the third album, we're probably kind of there.
Excellent. Well, that sounds fantastic, and I really do mean it. Congratulations on the album. It's a fantastic album.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your time, Michael.
Yeah, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.